probably won't, but I'm going to try. We're picking up on chapter 8, Farewell to Lorien. One little point early on, before we have Galadriel and the others giving them gifts and such. On 369, which is about 2 or 3 pages in, the company is deciding what they're going to do, or talking about what they're going to do. And Boromir says, I'm going to Minas Tirith, alone if need be, for it's my duty. It's where he came from, it's where he has to go back to. And after that, he's silent for a while, staring at Frodo, though, as if he was trying to read the halfling's thoughts. At length he spoke again, softly, as if he was debating with himself. Why do you think we get that he pauses or he stops, looking, staring at Frodo? Do you think Tolkien is suggesting that Boromir is expecting somebody to say, no, you're not going to go alone, we're going to come with you, Boromir? Is he fishing for some kind of response, is my point. At length he speaks again, softly, as if debating with himself. I mean, if you only wish to destroy the ring, then little use in war and weapons, and Minas Tirith can't help. But, if you wish to destroy the ring, to destroy the armed might of the Dark Lord, then it's folly to go without force into his domain, and folly to throw away. And then he realizes he's talking loud. He paused suddenly, as if he had become aware that he was speaking his thoughts aloud. It would be folly to throw lives away, I mean. It is a choice between defending a strong place and walking openly into the arms of death. At least that's how I see it. Oh, never made that connection before. Just 1 second. What's he mean? The connection between, or it's the choice between defending a strong place and walking openly into the arms of death. What would defending a strong place be? Louder?
Defending Minas Tirith.
Defending Minas Tirith? Is that what you? Okay. Or marching openly into death suggests what? And knowing you're going to lose. Okay? That's how I see it. Frodo caught something new and strange in Boromir's glance, and he looked hard at him. That is, Frodo looked hard at Boromir. Plainly, Boromir's thought was different from his final words. In other words, when Frodo looks hard at Boromir, he's trying to see behind the words. Frodo's trying to determine, what does he mean? Okay? We're going to try, if we get there, we're going to see a passage today where Aragorn is speaking with Eomer, one of the, just 1 second, because Rishon came in. He's speaking with Eomer, and Eomer asks, essentially, how do I know what's the right thing to do? And Aragorn's going to say, good and evil have not changed from what they were long ago to what they are now today. Nor are they different among elves, dwarves, and men. He says, but a man must discern between them. That is, must discern between good and evil. That's what Frodo is trying to do right now in this scene with Boromir. He's trying to figure out, what do those mean? What do those words really mean? Okay? Frodo looked at Aragorn, but he seemed deep in his own thought, made no sign that he had heeded Boromir's words. And so their debate ended. It's like Frodo looks to Aragorn like, are you with me? Did you catch that? Did you hear what he just... So, they get ready to go. And page 370, they're all given elven cloaks. Okay? Pippin asks, are these magic cloaks? Like, will they make us invisible? Harry Potter. Well, yes, kind of they do. They can be used for disguise, we find out later on. Let's see. They keep walking before they actually leave Lorien. And Galadriel and others start giving out gifts, or Galadriel does. Let's see here. Yeah, 374. She passes around a cup for them all to drink. And never caught that before. That is and I don't have time to mention this, but I'm going to. It's just interesting. There's a book. Come on. That's a W for with. Lady with a Mead Cup. Written by a professor at University of South Carolina, I don't know, 20 or 30 years ago. And it's about this image of a woman holding a cup to be passed around. And it is a motif that goes back literally probably 3,000 or 4,000 years. We see it in Germanic literature, English literature. I mean, it's where Tolkien gets it from. Tolkien gets it from Beowulf. It's in Indian literature. It's in Slavic literature. It's in Greco-Roman literature. And it's just this image. And it has all different kinds of meanings. I just find it very odd that it's here too. So, she says, we've drunk the cup of parting, but before you go, we have some things to give to you in parting memory. Okay? So she has a gift for Aragorn. She gives him a sheath to put his sword in, overlaid with a tracery of flowers, leaves, rod of silver and gold. There's elven runes. It's got gemstones, etc. in it. And she says, the blade that is drawn from this sheath shall not be stained or broken, even in defeat. In other words, the sword that was broken will never break again. No matter what happens, the sword that gets pulled out of this sheath will not break like your great grandfather's sword did. Okay? She says, anything else you want at our parting? Anything else I can give you, Aragorn? He says, no, you know what I want, and it's not for you to give. And there's something else that has to be done first. She says, well, maybe it'll lighten your heart. And she gives him a great stone of a clear green set in a silver brooch that was wrought in the likeness of an eagle with outspread wings. And as she held it up, the gem flashed like the sun shining through the leaves of spring. She says, this stone I gave to Celebrian, my daughter, and she to hers, and now it comes to you as a token of hope. Okay? In this hour, take the name that was foretold for you, Elistar, the Elfstone of the house of Elendil. So Elfstone refers literally to this, but it also figuratively refers to one of those Silmarils that I mentioned last week. He takes the stone, pins the brooch upon his breast, and everybody wonders when they look at him. Okay? Then we're told she turns to Merry and Pippin. She gives them small silver belts, each with a clasp wrought like a golden flower. So they put on their cloaks and tie the belt around the cloak to keep it snug. Okay, cool. Sam, he's a gardener. He probably has let that slip to her. And she says, I only have a small gift. And it gives him a little box with a G rune for Galadriel. And there's dirt. Sam gets dirt. Okay? She asks Gimli, what would you like? Did I skip a page? No. She asks Gimli, what would you like? He's like, yeah. It's nothing. It was enough to have seen you. Your beauty in my mind, is enough. And she's, Sam. Gimli, sorry. He says, well, okay, you commanded. Can I have a single strand of your hair? And the elves are like, dude, they're going to kill him for that. What would you do with a single strand of my hair? Treasure it. If ever I return to the smithies of my home, it shall be set an imperishable crystal to be an heirloom of my house and a pledge of goodwill between the mountain and the wood until the end of days, she says. Okay. And she pulls out 3 strands to give to him. She turns to Frodo. Okay. What do you want? She doesn't ask him, but it's kind of implied. I come to you, last, who are not least in my thoughts, who are not last in my thoughts. For you I have prepared this. She holds up a small crystal phial. Okay? That is the small jar. It's got a chain with it or a rope or string. And she tells him, in this phial is caught the light of Eärendil's star, set amid the, the waters of my fountain. It will shine still brighter when night is about you. May it be a light to you in dark places where all other lights go out. What is literally in the little jar? Water. It's water that has had the light of the Star of Eärendil shine on it. Or at least I think it is. Maybe it is bottled light. How do you bottle light? Okay? Because they look at it and is it glowing? We don't get any description that light is emanating from it. It glittered as she moved it, and rays of white light sprang upon her hand. Well, yes, we do. If she holds it like this, you get little gleams of light sticking out. Remember Galadriel in her mirror. Frodo takes the phial, and for a moment it shone between them. He sees her standing like a queen. Why? When he offered her the ring, and she was seemingly considering it, she says, you'll set up a Dark Queen instead of the Dark Lord, etc. Okay? Now we skipped, what did Legolas get? And what did Boromir get? Legolas got a quiver and bow. The quiver seemingly will never be empty of arrows. Okay? What did Boromir get? Great big giant WWE, World Wrestling Federation, WWF, World Wrestling Federation gold belt. Okay? They leave the Great River. They're in these boats. They make their way down. Who is still following? Gollum. And we get to chapter 10, the breaking of the fellowship. It's the breaking of the fellowship in more than one way. Okay? And they make their way to Parth Galen. So the river comes down and it opens up. This is downhill. It comes like this and it opens up into a big area here, and there's an island, and then there's 2 big pillars, and then it narrows down and you have a waterfall. Right? The 2 pillars are these carved statues of Elendil and Isildur. This is kind of indicating you're on the border of Gondor at this point. So they get there, and Aragorn says, we need to stop here because now we have to decide. Where are each of us going? Well, we know from this point, Boromir is going to go back to Denethor in Minas Tirith. What has Aragorn already said? Back in the Council of Elrond, I shall go to Minas Tirith. Okay? Sam's going to go wherever Frodo goes. Legolas and Gimli, up to them. So, they get to Parth Galen, and Aragorn tells Frodo, 396, it's your decision. He said, I'll go to Minas Tirith, but I'll go where you go, Frodo. He might go to Minas Tirith the long way. Frodo says, I need an hour. Give me some time to think. He wanders off. Wanders aimlessly at first. finds a path. It goes uphill. Okay? He doesn't get to the top of the hill, but he finds a spot. There's a stone sitting there, and he sits down on the stone and just kind of thinks. 397. Boromir shows up. They talk. Boromir says, I think you're suffering needlessly. Right in the middle of 397. Are you sure that you do not suffer needlessly? I wish to help you. You need counsel in your hard choice. Will you not take mine? I think I know what your counsel is. He kind of gave it away, right? Just before they left Lothlorien. Can I see the ring again, Frodo? I only saw it for a moment there, Council of Elrond. Frodo, not a good idea. So Boromir starts walking around, and he's talking, he's getting stuff off his chest, seemingly trying to provide counsel and such to Frodo. Long speech on 398. They tell us to throw it away. Folly. Surely you see it. You say you're afraid. If that is so, the boldest should pardon you. It's not really your good sense that revolts. Frodo, no, it's not. I'm afraid. That's it. I'm just afraid. But I'm glad to have heard you speak so fully. My mind is clearer now. Why did Boromir go to talk to Frodo? He wanted to help him make his decision. He helped him make his decision. What does Frodo realize? As long as he is around any of them, what?
The ring will corrupt them.
The ring will tempt them. The ring is tempting Boromir at this very moment. Boromir misinterprets what Frodo says. Then you will come to Minas Tirith. You misunderstand me. But you will come, at least for a while. Because what does he then go on and suggest? We won't use it. We'll lock it up. But we'll protect it. And maybe if, push comes to shove and we really, really have to, then we'll just pull it out for a little while. And once we defeat Sauron, then what? We'll lock it back up. But then he also says, it might have been mine, page 399. It should be mine. Give it to me. Frodo did not answer, but moved away. Come on, why not get rid of it? Why not be free of your doubt? Lay the blame on me. Why? I'm big and strong. You're not. I can take it from you. His fair and pleasant face was hideously changed. A raging fire was in his eyes. This is what the ring does. This is the physical corruption of Boromir. And so what does Frodo do? He puts the ring on. Why? It's the only way he can get away. Boromir's right. He is bigger, he's stronger, he's faster. Miserable trickster. And then he accuses Frodo of being a traitor. You will take the ring to Sauron and sell us all. Is that Boromir speaking? Or is that the ring speaking? Boromir doesn't have the ring. Later on, how should I mention this? Later on, at one point, it's possible that the ring itself literally speaks. Okay? This is not the ring itself literally speaking, but is the ring using Boromir's voice to throw this out at at Frodo. You've only waited your chance to leave us in the lurch, curse you and all halflings to death and darkness. Then catching his foot on a stone, he fell sprawling and lay upon his face. For a while he was as still as if his own curse had struck him down, and then suddenly he wept. What causes him to weep? Is it because he's tripped and fallen? Well, in one sense, yes. Because the tripping and falling caused him to do what? He realizes what he's done. He's lost his focus. He's lost his desire momentarily for the ring. He rises, passes his hand over his eyes, we're told, dashing away the tears. But it's also a wiping away, a cleaning. He's just experienced what? That Tolkien says is one of the four things fairy stories offer us, adult readers. He's experienced recovery. He now sees the way he was meant to see. How do we know? What have I said? What have I done? Frodo, come back. A madness took me, but it has passed. Does that mean it won't take him again? Nope. Now, when I talked about those four things with the fairy story essay, I said, Tolkien says those things are provided to us, the readers. That doesn't mean that some characters within the stories may not also experience them, and thus that's how we experience it. We see it in others. This is one, okay? Frodo's not there anymore. He's already running up the path. And he gets out to the top of the mountain, Amonhin, and there's this big, stone chair that he sits in. He doesn't realize it. But he's sitting on the hill of seeing. And he's wearing the all-powerful ring of power. So just sitting in that chair gives you some ability to see farther than you normally would. The fact that he's wearing the ring gives him the ability to see what? Okay, he's way down on the border of Gondor. He looks up at the north. He sees all the way to the Misty Mountains in Mirkwood Forest. Hundreds of miles away. Okay? He sees the land of the Beornings. Beorn is a character in The Hobbit, which is near Mirkwood, burning on fire. He sees orcs pouring out of the Misty Mountains. Okay? He looks all around, and what does he see? Armies. Armies getting ready to march. He sees essentially impending destruction. But his eye gradually is drawn, or he moves, and he now turns eastward. Well, what's eastward? Mordor. Page 401. Suddenly he felt the eye. There was an eye in the dark tower that did not sleep. He knew that it had become aware of his gaze. A fierce, eager will was there. It leaped towards him almost like a finger. He felt it searching for him. Very soon it would nail him down, know just exactly where he was. Amon Hla it touched. It glanced upon tall Brandir. That is, it's reaching out, looking for him, and it goes over him and hits another peak. And then it hits something else. And Frodo's thinking, the next one, it's going to hit me. And we're told, he threw himself from the seat, crouching, covering his head with his gray hood. Like the hood is going to hide him? Well, in just a few pages, we will see. Aragorn, Legolas, and Gimli pull their cloaks around them and cover themselves, and they look like boulders. He hears himself crying out, "Never, never." Or was it, "Verily I come to you"? Can anyone misconstrue "never, never" for "verily, verily I come to you"? No, they don't sound at all alike. So why does he hear the two? Might one of those be the ring? What's the eye doing? What's the eye trying to find? The ring. Is that the ring saying, I'm here, Daddy, I'm here, come find me? He could not tell. Frodo, I think, could be wrong, literally hears both those statements. And they're both said in his voice. There is still an I, which says never, never, but there's also another I that says, I come to you. Then as a flash from some other point of power, there came to his mind another thought. Notice, this thought comes from where? Outside Frodo. This is the third power, so to speak, a third consciousness, so to speak. Take it off. Fool, take it off. Take off the ring. Whose thought? Who do we know? I'm saying this is a possibility. It's not necessarily true. Who do we know knows when Frodo puts on the ring? Galadriel. She says, 3 times you put the ring on since you've known what it is. And he's like, how did you know? And then later he sees the ring on her finger. And she explains, I know the thoughts of those who have rings. Okay? The 2 powers strove in him. Notice, aren't there 3? Never, never, that's 1 power. Verily I come to you, that's another power. Take it off. Fool, take off, isn't that a 3rd power? Or is it just the I, E-Y-E, not I, the I power, and the fool, take it off power? It's those 2. And he takes it off. What does Frodo determine he must do? And he makes this determination because of what happened with Boromir. Just as he left the Shire to protect the Shire, he has to leave all the rest of the Fellowship. Because if he doesn't, what could happen to them? They'll turn, they'll get corrupted like Boromir did. So, he pulls the ring back out, slips it on so that he's not seen, and heads back down to the boats. Okay? The others, meanwhile, are back down there, and they're thinking, what's Frodo taking so long for? What's he thinking about? Aragorn, he's debating which course is the most desperate. He says, now it's hopeless for the company to go east. That is, we can't go to Mordor. Well, if they can't go to Mordor, what does that say for the whole journey to destroy the ring? May as well give up now. Why put it off another 2 weeks or something? He says, I guess we're going to all have to go to Minas Tirith and there put on a last stand. They go back and forth. Aragorn says, man, I miss Gandalf. He knew what he was going to do, or he probably had a plan. And then they realize Boromir isn't there. Okay? Merry cries out, we're going with Frodo no matter what. And let's see. Boromir shows back up. 4:04. Where have you been? Have you seen Frodo? Yes, I did see him. We spoke. I urged him to come to Minas Tirith. He vanished. I haven't seen. You haven't told us everything. He said, nope, haven't, but I'm not going to say anything more now. Merry and Pippin ask, where's Frodo? Again, where is he? And they run off to find him. Aragorn now gives Boromir a charge. Stay with the halflings, with the hobbits. Protect them. They don't know what else is going to happen or going on. Aragorn tells Sam, stay with me. Okay. Why? Because he's going to run up to that seat of seeing. He knows all about it. He figures, if I go up there, I'll be able to see Frodo. He runs, okay, how tall is Aragorn's? Like, 6'5", big long legs, long strides. Sam's like, a dachshund. Lots of little steps compared to him. Sam realizes, wisely, I can't keep up with him. So he stops and he thinks, okay, so what's Frodo going to do? He's going to try and leave everybody behind. Can't leave me. I'm Sam, He runs back down the other way. And he sees one of the boats slip into the water. Coming, Mr. Frodo, I'm coming. And Sam runs and does his best swan dive. Hobbits don't swim. They sink. Frodo rescues him. And before they go, what do to the other boats? Punch holes in them so they can't be followed. So now Frodo and Sam go off on their own. And as far as they know, Aragorn, Legolas, Gimli, Boromir, Merry, and Pippin are all fine, right as rain. Not a thing's wrong with any of them. Okay? And we get the breaking of the fellowship. This book is published I think it is late 1954. You don't get the II.Towers in England. You don't get the II.Towers for about another 6 months. So Gandalf's dead. The Fellowship has broken. How so? Because Frodo and Sam are going off on their own at this point. The rest of these are all together, except for, obviously, Gandalf. We open Book 3. The Departure of Boromir. What's he sound like? Yeah. Calling, platform 9 3/4. Get on the bus, get on the train, get on the plane. There's a chapter in one of the Harry Potter novels, 7th one, just titled Fallen Warrior. And Rowling is, she's got a sadistic streak. And you open that chapter, and she starts talking about somebody that you've grown to love and admire throughout the books, and it turns out that's not the fallen warrior. It's somebody else, okay? So, Aragorn speeds up the hill. He sees Frodo's footsteps and such, and he finds Boromir. Because he has heard Boromir's horn. Page 414. And Boromir does what? I tried to take the ring from Frodo. I am sorry. I have paid. Why does Boromir tell him?
Probably because temptation is no longer clouding his mind.
True. What else is no longer clouding his mind? Life. He's pincushion for orc arrows at this point. He's getting ready to die. What is he doing? He's unburdening himself. Again, Tolkien's Catholic. This is confession. Okay? I have paid, meaning I have paid for my sin. They've gone, the halflings, the orcs have taken them. I think they are not dead. Orcs bound them. Aragorn he says to Aragorn, farewell, Aragorn, go to Minas Tirith and save my people. I have failed, meaning I have failed my people. Aragorn, no, you have conquered. Few have gained such a victory. He's already looked and there's like 20 orcs all around him. Be at peace, Minas Tirith shall not fail. Boromir smiles. Which way did they go? 2 questions. Which way did they go? Was Frodo with them? And Boromir's dead. Okay? And this is the one point where Aragorn expresses great doubt about himself. It's the only point in the entire series. Unlike in the film, where Aragorn is kind of this great angst-ridden existential hero. Will I be able to become the king that I'm meant to be? Will I be able to blah, 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 blah. All this kind of stuff. Okay? So, Legolas and Gimli come back. The orcs are defeated. And what do they do with Boromir's body? They get one of the boats. They patch the boat. They put Boromir in it, and they pile around him all of the weapons of the orcs that he slew. Okay? What else do they put on him? Two things. The big belt that Galadriel gave him, and his horn, which is now broken in two. Okay, this is going to be significant later on. And they put him in the middle of the river, and they send him down to go over the falls of Rauros. Imagine, Niagara Falls. So he goes down over this waterfall. He's going to show up later. Okay? Chapter 2, Riders of Rohan. So after they do that to Boromir, they now have to decide what they're going to do. What are their options? Go off after Frodo and Sam, or go off after marrying Pippin. Why don't they go after Frodo and Sam? Or why do they choose marrying Pippin? Aragorn says, I don't know that Gandalf ever intended to go into Mordor. What good are they going to do getting into Mordor? Probably none. Why go after marrying Pippin? Who are marrying Pippin with? Orcs. Are orcs like any human enemy, terrorist group, whatever we can imagine in our world? No, they're all of those things, Gestapo and the Stasi and the KGB and, rapists, murderers, serial murderers, all wrapped into one racial grouping. Okay? They're the worst of the worst of the worst of the worst. And they think, I can't imagine what Merry and Pippin are enduring. So they decide to go after Merry and Pippin instead. Okay? How are they going to do that? Fly, you fools, signal Gwaihir the Windlord. On foot. What do they almost immediately notice about these orcs? And I don't mean notice visually in seeing them. How are these orcs different than orcs normally are?
Fast.
They're fast. Other orcs are fast. They don't stop during the daylight. Orcs usually only do their business, so to speak, either at nighttime or when it's dreary like this, where there's not bright. These orcs run in full daylight, bright sunlight. It's kind of against their nature, okay? So they chase them for 4 days on foot. We're going to skip a bunch. They see, I think it is on the third day, Legolas sees, way off in the distance, in the direction they're running, smoke rising. And then he points out there's riders. The riders must have caught the orcs, is what they assume. Okay? The riders are coming towards them. And again, Legolas sees this like tens or 20s of miles away, right? because elves have exceptionally good eyesight. So as these riders are making their way towards them, they know they're going to be surrounded by them. How do they hide themselves from these riders? Pull their cloaks around them, they plop down on the ground, and they look like rocky outcroppings. The first bunch of riders rides on past because they're riding in single file. They ride on past, and as they get about midway through the line, Aragorn suddenly jumps up and cries out, page 431, "What news from the north, riders of Rowan?" And the riders that were up ahead and beyond them check their steeds and circle around, and so now they make a big circle around Aragorn. They had bows, they're already fitted to the string. One of them rides forward, a tall man, and he advances on his horse until his spear point is a foot from Aragorn's chest. Who are you? And what are you doing in this land? What does he mean? Skip the first part. What does he mean? What are you doing in this land? What is this land? It's Rowan. What are you doing in my country? It's not like he's saying, show me your passport with your entry visa stamp. What? Why are you here? I'm called Strider. And I kind of think, I've just got this in my own mind, that when Aragorn says that, he says it with kind of an accent. Oh, I'm called Strider. Because he's obviously trying to put on a disguise. I come out of the north. I am hunting orcs. The rider jumps down from his horse, gives the spear to somebody else. Okay? I thought you were orcs. He says, but now I see that it's not so. You know little of orcs if you go hunting them like this. And he keeps looking at him. Middle of that same page. There's something strange about you, Strider. That's not a name for a man that you give. Strange too is your raiment, your clothing. Are you elves? No. Well, one of us is. But we passed through Lothlorien, and the gifts in favor of the lady go with us. The gift is going to be clear. What's the favor of the lady?
She likes us. I guess.
Okay, she likes them. What else? Her good will, her good wishes, her blessings, so to speak. All of those things. It's like she has put some kind of protection on them. Okay? The writer looks at them with renewed wonder, but his eyes harden. That is, he looks at them and he's full of wonder, but his eyes kind of squint. Then there is a lady in the Golden Wood, as old tales tell. And we get hit again and again and again in the novel. This idea of old tales having what today? A link to reality. That old tales aren't necessarily just what we consider to be myths. MYTHS. Tales to explain something that is inexplicable. Few escape her nets, they say. These are strange days. But if you have her favor, then you also are net weavers and sorcerers, maybe. If you have her favor, that implies her spells upon you, then that makes you these things also. And then he turns and looks to Legolas and Gimli, who are both sitting down. So Gimli sitting down is about how tall? Maybe that. Because he's maybe 4 feet at most. Legolas sitting down is probably about like that. All right? Gimli does what? He rises and planted his feet firmly apart. That is, he gets up and does this. And then grabs the handle of his axe. He's taking a fighting stance. and says, "Give me your name, Horsemaster, and I will give you mine, and more besides. Don't ask me who I am. Tell me who you are." In a quote-unquote battle of etiquette or battle of courtesy, who is on the right side in this little battle between Eomer, that's what his name's going to be, and Gimli? Eomer is right. Somebody calls you and you don't recognize the voice, and the voice says, "Who is this?" What should you say? Well, I'll tell you what I say. Who is this? I mean, who the hell are you? You called me. Don't ask me who I am. You should tell who you are. I mean, I learned that in like third grade. If you answer your telephone at home, this is what you do. This is courtesy. Okay? They are in his country, his land. Eomer. As for that, the stranger should declare himself first. Yet I am called, and so he gives his name. I am named Eomer, son of Eamon, and I'm called the third Marshal of Riddermark. So notice, now that he knows his name, Gimli responds courteously for the first part. Then Eomer, son of Eamon, third Marshal of Riddermark, let Gimli the dwarf glowing son warn you against foolish words. He has just subtly done what? Called him a fool, right? Because wise people don't use foolish words. Only fools use foolish words. And then he goes on. You speak evil of that which is fair beyond the reach of your thoughts, and only little wit can excuse you. There's no subtlety there. You speak evil of that which is fair beyond the reach of your thoughts. What is that which is fair? What does that refer to? Galadriel. And she is fair beyond the reach of his thoughts, meaning she has a beauty you cannot even contemplate. You cannot even conceive. According to one of the Catholic scholastic fathers in the Middle Ages, Anselm, can't remember which one. God is that which about which higher cannot be conceived. You can't conceive of something higher, greater, more powerful than God, in other words. Galadriel is so beautiful and fair, your thought cannot even conceive of her, he says. That's the first part. The second part, but I excuse you. Why? You have little wits. That's understatement. That means you're a moron. If you had more brains, you'd be able to conceive of her beauty. Notice, Eomer gets what he says, as do all the writers of Rowan. Because Eomer says, his eyes blaze, I would cut off your head, beard and all, Master Dwarf, if it stood but a little higher from the ground. Now, is that a good retort to what Gimli said? They're both what kind of rhetorical attack? It's an ad hominem attack. How is Gimli's comments an ad hominem means to or against the man? That is, you try to defeat somebody in a logical argument by saying, oh yeah, well, your mom wears army boots. Like, what the hell does that have to do with anything? Or yeah, well, you're blonde. Has nothing to do with it. Okay? Gimli's saying, you're too stupid to be able to conceive of her, and it's only because you're too stupid, period. It's not rational, it's not a logical argument. So what does Eomer say? Well, you're a midget. It's essentially his response. Legolas, he stands not alone. He bends his arrow and fits an arrow with hands that moved quicker than sight. What that means is he reaches behind him, pulls an arrow out of his quiver, knocks it on the bow string, and gets ready to launch. Quicker than they can see it happen. Before you swing that sword, you'll be dead. What are the other riders doing? Those who have bows and arrows, they've all now got them drawn. Those who have spears, they're holding them like this and they're marching in a little bit closer. In other words, this is not going to be a good battle. Aragorn stops them. He jumps between, probably not Gimli and Eomer, between Legolas and Eomer. And says, when you know more, you'll understand why you've angered my companions. Will you not hear before you strike? He says, I will. But wanderers in the Rittermark would be wise to be less haughty in these days of doubt. And he's going to use this phrase, these days, or these kinds of days, several times. What is he saying about these days? What's wrong with these days? None of you were alive, probably, on 9/11/2001. Okay? If, God forbid, we had a 2/12/25 that was like 9/11, but let's say this one was worse. Let's say rather than taking down the two towers, because the original aren't there, let's say instead, and it was an attack just on Washington, and the Capitol building was taken out, and the White House was taken out, and then say, I don't know, pick a couple other buildings across the country, the Sears Tower in Chicago, some hotels in Miami, the Century City building in LA that the aliens in Independence Day, did this. The financial center in New York, all in a span of 5 or 6 hours. We would be referring to the days after that as these days of trouble. There would be no escaping them, no getting away from them. Okay? So have they had those kinds of experiences? Not yet. But Eomer knows trouble is brewing. Okay? Which is why he refers to these days of doubt. First, tell me your right name. In other words, I'll listen to your tale, but you got to tell me who you really are. Notice Aragorn controlling the terms of the debate. First, tell me whom you serve. I'll tell you who I am, but first you have to tell me, who do you serve? Are you friend or foe of Sauron, the Dark Lord of Mordor? That's what he really means by whom do you serve. Do you serve Sauron? Or are you opposed to him? Notice what Aragorn is suggesting there. There's no neutrality, folks. It can't be, oh no, we don't serve him, but we're not against him either, which is exactly what Eomer is going to say in just a moment. He's going to say, we're not in open war against him, but we don't serve him either. Geopolitically, if Eomer was referring to Rowan as a country, what country would it be in our world? Switzerland. Switzerland is neutral. During World War II, Switzerland did not fight on either side. It kind of aided the Allies some. If U.S. prisoners or Allied prisoners of war could get into Switzerland, they could live out the rest of the war there. Okay? Aragorn's going to say, there is no Switzerland anymore. So, when he says we do not serve the power of the Black Land far away, but neither are we yet open war with it. He says, if you're fleeing from him, you need to leave. Why? If you're fleeing from Sauron, what does that mean Sauron's going to be doing? Following you into our land. We don't want that. And then he kind of gives a credo, a belief statement about what they want as the Rohirrim. We desire only to be free and to live as we have lived, keeping our own and serving no foreign lord, good or evil. Explain what that means in our world. George Bush said in 2001, in that speech to Congress on September 20th, He said, we will go into any country that harbors terrorists and the terrorists that plan this. He said, there can be no neutrality. You are either for us or you are against us. Okay? Here, Aylmer is saying, we just want to be left alone. We want to live as we have lived, as we grew up. Okay? We want to keep our own. What's he saying they want for Rowan? They want their own little world, big giant walls around it, keeping everybody and everything else out. In other words, he's kind of saying, oh, if only we had those rangers from the north that could keep us simple, like Aragorn talked about the Shire. We welcomed guests kindlier in better days, but in these times, the unbidden stranger finds us swift and hard. Why? What does the these times here mean? What does he know? He says, we desire to be free and to live as we have lived. We desire this, but what does he know? We can't have that anymore. Times are changing, which is why he then asked Aragorn again, who are you? Whom do you serve? At whose command do you hunt orcs in our land? Okay? So, he turns the tables, because Aragorn said, who do you serve? Do you serve the Dark Lord, or are you against him? He gives a reply, Aragorn gives a reply Eomer is not expecting at all. Whom do you serve means what about the one who's being asked that question? What does the whom refer to? You must serve someone. Everyone has a master of sorts. If you're not king or queen, then you serve the king or queen, or the Lord, or whatever the power is. Who do you serve? Aragorn. I serve no man. Meaning, there is no one over me. There is no one higher than me. There is no one greater than me. There is no one who controls me. But the servants of Sauron I pursue into whatever land they may go. I don't care about your little borders. Your little borders mean nothing to me, Eomer. And we're going to find out in a little while. He's going to tell Eomer, and then later on, it's going to be implied. He knew Eomer's father. He knew Theoden's father, Aragorn. Theoden's supposed to be like 54 or so. Aragorn, find out if you read the appendices, Aragorn's 87 years old at this point. In fact, he probably knew Eomer's grandfather. Okay? There are a few among mortal men who know more of orcs, and I do not hunt them like this, etc. He says, I am not weaponless, because how has he appeared so far? He's just wearing his cloak, doesn't have a spear, doesn't have a sword in his hand. We know Gimli's armed with his axe. We know Legolas is armed. He throws the cloak back, and the elven sheath glittered as he grasped it. Why? Because it's got gold and silver and gemstones. And the bright blade of Enduril shone like a sudden flame as he pulls it out. Like a sudden flame. Not, it is a sudden flame. It probably, when he pulls it out, catches the rays of the sun and flashes. And he says, Elendil, I am Aragorn, son of Arathorn, and am called Elisar. Elisar, the Elfstone, Dunadan, the heir of Isildur, Elendil, son of Gondor. Here is the sword that was broken and is forged again. Will you aid me or thwart me? Choose swiftly. What has he just said? In our world, who has just revealed himself? I am Arthur, son of Uther, called Pendragon, blah, 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 blah. And this is Excalibur. You see somebody do that in England today, and all hell's gonna break loose. That's what Aragorn is. Okay? Even Éomer has heard these names. Gimli and Legolas look at him, and they're like, wow, we've never seen Aragorn like this. He seemed to have grown in stature while Éomer had shrunk. And they see in his face for the first time the images of those statues. In other words, they recognize Elendil and Isildur in his face. They can see the genes, as it were. And to Legolas, it seemed that a white flame flickered on the brows of Aragorn like a shining crown. That's the elf stone. Not a literal, like a stone or white flame. It is metaphorical. Okay? Éomer steps back and looks down at the ground. Why? There is a dignity and a greatness and a power and a majesty unbeknownst to him. And he says, these are indeed strange days. Dreams and legends spring to life out of the grass. Tell me, Lord, what brings you here? When he calls him Lord, what is he saying? Okay. You're higher, greater, more powerful than me, and you are my Lord too. What doom do you bring here? What about the riddle that Boromir took to Rivendell? What doom? The doom of choice. Literally, what does that mean? Doom is the noun form from the verb to deem, which means to choose, to judge. What judgment do you bring? He says, the judgment of choosing, or the choice of choosing. Choosing what? What are you going to do? You're going to aid me or thwart me? You can try and stop me, but a bunch of you are going to die. Or you can help me. Open war lies before Theoden. Theoden, king. Literally, Anglo-Saxon, that word means king. King. Okay? He doesn't get to be neutral anymore. He has to oppose Sauron. Okay? Those orcs had friends of ours. You don't need to chase them down anymore. They're all dead. And our friends, we didn't find any. You sure? Little, like children. No children among those orcs. They're hobbits. What are hobbits? Halflings. A writer laughs, bottom of 434. They're only a little people in old songs and children's tales. What literally has sprung out of the ground in front of them? An old song and children's tale. The sword that was broken, the heir of Isildur and Elendil. Do we walk in legends or on the green earth in the daylight? Aragorn, a man may do both. Why? Not we, but those who come after will make the legends of our time. The legends of our time are made in the future. What are they made about? Us. Our choices, our decisions, our actions. The name Scott Beamer will probably be remembered for generations. Why? He's the one who's most often named on Flight 93, who talked with other men on that flight and said, we got to do something. My wife told me this plane is heading for D.C. We're going to take out either the Capitol or the White House. We have to stop it. And they all spoke to their loved ones, told them what they were doing, and the last words recorded, let's roll. And they took him down. Okay? That's what he's talking about. The green earth, that is a mighty matter of legend. And yet you tread it daily. He's talking about old stories. Why? Remember, you're talking about the Silmarillion, the green earth was originally what? Flat. Now it's round like a ball. Amber tells the writer who interrupted, be quiet. So they keep talking. Aragorn tells them why they are there, why they are following Merry and Pippin. Tells them Gandalf is dead, and he's like, oh man, you just bring all kinds of great news, don't you? 438. Our friends were dressed like we are, and you rode right past us. Maybe you missed them. He says, I hadn't thought about that. 438, right in the middle. It is hard to be sure of anything among so many marvels. The world is all grown strange. He has said that, I think, 3 times now, that these are strange days, the world is strange, now the world is all grown strange. Elf and dwarf in company walk in our daily fields. People speak with the lady of the golden wood, and yet live. The sword comes back that was broken. How shall a man judge what to do in such times? Back up for just a second. When he says the world is all grown strange, what is he really saying? He doesn't recognize the world anymore. It's like the world is suddenly new, different. What is he really saying? He's experiencing recovery. He is seeing everything like a man born blind, suddenly gifted with sight. Whoa! There really are heroes, so to speak. You know, in The Hobbit, I think I mentioned this before, the dwarves get Bilbo because they want a thief because they couldn't find a hero to go fight the dragon. So they're going to get a thief to steal from the dragon. How shall a man judge what to do? He asks. Aragorn, as he ever has judged. Good and ill have not changed since yesteryear. This is Tolkien's Catholicism. Good and evil don't change. Good is always good. Evil is always evil. Evil is never good. It's never partly good. Good is never partly evil. In other words, the ends, a good end, does not justify using evil means to arrive at it. What did Boromir want the ring for? To save Minas Tirith. Is that a good thing? Yes. Would it have saved Minas Tirith? Ultimately, no. Why? Because it would have set up Boromir as a dark lord. So Aragorn goes on. Nor is it one thing, nor are good and evil one thing among elves and dwarves and another among men. In other words, elves can't say, well, this is what I consider to be good. And dwarves go, this is what we... It's either good or it isn't, Aragorn is saying. Here's the difficulty. It is a man's part to discern them as much in the golden wood, where seemingly everything is good and there is no ill or evil, as in his own home. He's saying, that's the problem. You have to be able to do what? Is that the right thing to do? Frodo's temptation by Boromir. Frodo says, you've helped me make up my mind. Boromir's actions helped Frodo discern what he needed to do. I need to leave all of them. Notice when Sam comes back, Frodo doesn't say, no, Sam, you can't come. The ring might turn you. Why? Because Sam doesn't have that within him. He sees Sam as good. Okay? So, skipping a bit, just on that page, in fact, Aragorn tells Eomer that he's been in that land before. He says, you're young. I've spoken with Eomer, your father, with Theoden, son of Thingol, etc. So what does he agree to do? I'll come back. I'll go to Medisild, but we've got to go see if we can find our friends. Okay? I promise. I'll bring horses back. Next chapter, Uruk-hai. Not going to say anything about it other than we see Tolkien at the end of the Fellowship of the Ring is called what? Breaking of the Fellowship. Well, it broke earlier, right? When did it break? The Bridge of Khazad-dûm, when Gandalf falls. That's the initial breaking. And then, okay, we have Frodo and Sam go off on their own, and they leave Merry, Pippin, Aragorn, Legolas, and Gimli. And as I said a few minutes ago, they're all fine when that happens. All right? So, wherever, at this point in time, when Aragorn is talking with Éomer, wherever Frodo and Sam are, they don't know anything that's happened to these others. The Uruk-hai, Tolkien now takes us to Merry and Pippin, because in book 3, II.Towers, what we see is we see Aragorn, Legolas, and Gimli. They go off in one direction after this. Merry and Pippin are being carried off by the orcs. And what Tolkien now has is he has these 3 strands, and he's going to weave them in and out back together. Weave them in and out throughout II.Towers and Fellowship, Return of the King. So, Uruk-hai, the only thing I'm going to say about that, what do we see Merry or Pippin, I can't remember which one, briefly get away to do? They drop that brooch, which is a signal. If they're being followed, we're still alive. Okay? It's the only point it serves. And then at the very end of the chapter, we see Merry and Pippin escape from the orcs. And they go to the edge of the forest where the orcs get attacked by the riders. Treebeard, it's titled. So they make their way in the next morning. They make their way in. They climb up onto this little promontory, this like hill. And there's a brief glimmer of sunlight. 463. Merry says, the wind's changing. Pippin, yes. I'm afraid this is only a passing gleam. It will all go gray again. Kind of like, this is now the new normal. Sunlight is an aberration. Why? Sauron's gaining power. And then Pippin says, I almost felt like I liked the place, meaning the old shaggy forest. And they hear this booming voice. The only reason I know it's a booming voice is because Tolkien says in the letters, the voice of his good friend, C.S. Lewis, is what he imagined as the voice of Treebeard. Almost felt you liked the forest. That's good. That's uncommonly kind of you. When C.S. Lewis lectured at Oxford, it was standing room only. Doors would be open, people would be out in the hallways. See, British universities aren't like ours, where you guys would come to class every day or whatever. Professors deliver lectures a few times a year, and those lectures are open to the public. Students come because, they're required. But normally, students, the only interaction they will have with their professors is like once a week, there will be, like this group would come in to my office, often rooms where the professor lives on campus, and then another day, this group would come in, and each one of you would come in with a paper you had written, and you would read it aloud. And then all the rest of us would rip your paper apart. And then you read a paper, and we listen to it, and then we all rip that paper apart. And then the next week, you have a new paper. So you're doing, essentially, a paper presentation every week of term, okay? That's how it's done. So he imagines, look, Tolkien, by the way, Tolkien mumbled, and he did not speak very loudly. Few people showed up for Tolkien's lectures. So, what's the importance of this chapter? Who's Treebeard? Not what is Treebeard. Who is Treebeard? What's the forest named? Is it Treebeard Forest? It's Fangorn Forest. Treebeard is Fangorn. Treebeard is the tree around whom the forest grew and is named. All right? The reason for this chapter, the purpose of this chapter, is so that Merry and Pippin will meet Treebeard and talk with Treebeard about Gandalf's death and about Saruman's treachery. Okay? Saruman, the Vale of Isengard, are on the, kind of like on the edges of Fangorn. Saruman has been chopping down trees. Why? He needs to build fires to power his machinery in Isengard. The whole purpose of Merry and Pippin meeting Treebeard is to rouse the Ents. What are Ents? E-N-T-S.
They're like tree shepherds.
Tree shepherds. They're tree birds. Treeards. Something like that, okay? That implies what about the trees that they herd? They move. These are not like the trees that Treebeard would shepherd. Why? These trees don't move. But they also shepherd in the sense of guard, protect, defend trees. Okay? So Merry and Pippin tell Treebeard everything they know, most everything they know. And he's like, we need to have an Ent moot, a meeting of Ents. He wants the Ents to consider what to do about Saruman. And surprisingly, they agree to march on Saruman. They're going to march on Isengard and destroy it. Or die in the attempt. Okay? While with Treebeard, skip this in my first class, so you guys get something they didn't get. Merry and Pippin drink what's called Ent Draft, or Ent Draught. It's water in Treebeard's cave, but it's also alcoholic. And it has this nice little property that it makes you grow. So that when we get to the end of The Lord of the Rings, Merry and Pippin are going to be about 4 feet tall, which is about a foot taller than most other hobbits. All right? So, get to the end of Treebeard, chapter 5, The White Rider, 7 pages, 7 minutes. You're going to have to skip a lot. Still won't get nearly where I went to. They meet this guy in white. They assume it's Saruman. They attempt, kind of, to attack. Who does it turn out to be? It's Gandalf. Why is he white? It's Gandalf. Gandalf says he is Saruman as Saruman should have been. Okay? He explains how he became white. What did he and the Balrog do? The bridge fell, or was destroyed, and they fell. As they fell, the Balrog has flames all around him, which means Gandalf gets burned. They then hit water. They're not done falling. They go all the way down through the water. So here's the Mines of Moria, and I know there's multiple levels. They fall. They finally hit the ground beneath the water. They come back out and they run up what's called the Dimril Stale, one chasing the other. They break out upon the top on this mountain, and Gandalf says, page 502, a great smoke rose about us, vapor and steam, ice fell like rain. I threw down my enemy, and he fell from the high place and broke the mountainside where he smote it in his ruin. That is almost an exact quotation from, it's either Daniel or Ezekiel, of Satan being thrown out of heaven and hits the earth and creates a hole in it. That's the whole idea. Hell is down within the earth, like the center, so to speak. Okay? And then what happened to him? Gandalf says, darkness took me, and I strayed out of thought and time, and I wandered far on roads that I will not tell. What does it mean to stray out of thought and time? If you go outside time, you're now what? For having been a living, breathing human kind of thing. dead. He died. The straying far on roads he will not tell. Most Tolkien scholars think that's referring to he left Middle-earth and he went over to Valinor to what are called the Halls of Mandos. And there he was healed, resurrected. And then he tells us what? Naked I was sent back. Okay, if he was sent back, what does that automatically mean? There was a sender. He was ordered back until his task is done. What's his task? We're never literally told within the Lord of the Rings. It comes in Tolkien's other stuff. He's a defender of Middle-earth. Actually, he kind of gives a clue. Later on, Gandalf is going to say he is a steward. Just like Denethor is the steward of Gondor, he's the sub-ruler. He rules in the king's stead. Gandalf is a steward of the whole world. In other words, he rules in the ruler's place. He is one of 5, the 5 wizards. They are stewards of sorts, okay? One other thing about that chapter. No, I'm going to skip that part. What time is it? Yeah, I will. 499. Aragorn, Legolas, and Gimli want to know what's going on with Merry and Pippin. He said, oh, they meant Treebeard. Treebeard? What's a Treebeard? Fangorn. And Gandalf has to explain. Treebeard is Fangorn. Fangorn is the, as he puts it, right smack dab in the middle of 499. He is the oldest of the Ents, the oldest living thing that still walks beneath the sun upon this Middle Earth. Is there a problem with that statement? Eldest, that's what I am, Tom Bombadil says. I was here before the dark came from the outside. Okay, that statement and this statement both cannot be true. Unless Tom Bombadil doesn't, quote unquote, walk beneath the sun on this Middle Earth. Unless Tom Bombadil is merely, no, I shouldn't say merely, is what I think a manifestation of God, Iru-Luvatar. And that he exists here and he exists there at the same time. Okay? That's all I wanted to say about that. All right, we're going to have to pick up. I got closer to being where we are with my other class. We're going to pick up with the King of the Golden Hall on Thursday. And see how Gandalf does not exorcise Saruman out of Theoden. Have a good day. Stay dry.